This photograph is going to be easier for you to draw in shade than any other photograph you've ever attempted to draw before. The reason for that is because it's been photographed with the ideal lighting for the purpose of being drawn. What that means is that it has been lit in such a way that the shadows and highlights break the image into manageable shapes. This is called three-quarter lighting, or Rembrandt lighting. As you probably guessed, the reason it's called Rembrandt lighting is because the famous Dutch Renaissance artist used it to paint all of his portraits. Which brings us to lighting and basic photography. I want to explain how to shoot your own photo references. After all, you'll need to be able to in the future if you're going to make your own drawings after finishing this course. Let's begin by talking a little about what makes a good photo reference. Shooting a photograph that's meant to be used for a drawing or painting is different from shooting a normal photograph. For example, normally when you're taking a photograph of someone, the only job you're concerned with is making them look good. But when you're taking a photograph with the intention of drawing it, you have to take a few other things into consideration. The reason so many people fail or have a hard time when they first try to draw a portrait, for example, is because they don't know what I'm about to explain to you. A photo reference needs to have form, and the way to create form is by using form lighting, which is the lighting you're seeing in this photograph right now. I'll convert it to grayscale so it's easier for you to see what I mean. Form lighting does two things. First, it breaks the image up into smaller shapes. That helps immensely because it's a lot easier for your brain to handle smaller tasks, like filling in a simple shape, than thinking about a whole face. As you can see when I flatten and vectorize the image, these simple shapes are enough to make your eye recognize the subject's face. The second thing form lighting does is give the subject structure. In other words, it makes the subject's face seem three-dimensional. It does that by casting a shadow on one side of the face, a highlight on the other side, and breaking the midtones into manageable shapes. Here's how I achieve the lighting on my subject. I know this looks complicated, but you don't need the gray backdrop or the tripods. You can replace the camera with your cell phone camera, and you can use a 100-watt light bulb for the lighting. You will need that big white panel, in this case it's foam core, which costs about $3 at an art store, but you can replace that with any large white panel or piece of paper. Let me explain. This is your light source. By placing it above the subject on the left, 2/3 of her face will be lit, leaving 1/3 in shadow. This piece of white foam core is here to bounce the light back into the shadow. When light that isn't coming directly from the light bulb is hitting the subject, it becomes diffused and is called indirect light. This indirect light creates shapes in the shadows and casts a thin sliver of light that defines her jaw, called rim light. That's this part of her jawline that gets lighter. Do you see it now? This is the exact same lighting I used for the cue ball. See how it gave this ball dimension? If I had photographed it with the flash on, it would just look like a white circle, but instead it's been broken up into shapes, just like the portrait photo. The shadow side is on the right, taking up about 1/3 of the space. The highlight is on the left, and the midtones take up about 2/3 of the area. Do you see it now? The reason I chose to have you draw the cue ball first is because everything you learn there can be applied to drawing a portrait, and to every other object as well. This goes for life drawing too. You have to set up good lighting before attempting to draw anything. For example, the photo references of hands and eyes I supplied you have been photographed using form lighting as well. So, if you've noticed you've been having an easier time making your drawings look good in this course, it's partially because the photo references you were using were designed to be drawn. A good drawing starts with lighting, and now you know how to light your subjects.